Sometimes when you hear a speech that inspires you, it causes you to change your perspective, your mentality, or it causes you to pursue a new goal that you never thought of before. As a professional speaker and world champion of public speaking, there have been several speeches that have done that for me over my life. And today, I'm going to be telling you what those speeches are. And if there are any speeches that have inspired you, let me know what they are in the comments down below. Number 6, Your Body May Shape Who You Are by Cuddy. This is one of the most popular TED Talks ever given. And in that talk, Cuddy goes over how your mental state can be affected by your body language.
We're really fascinated with body language, and we're particularly interested in other people's body language.
In addition, she also talked about her background and how she felt unconfident at one point in her life and how her body language shaped who she was over the course of her life. And in that speech, there was one moment that I absolutely loved when it came full circle and she started talking about how she encouraged another young girl who was in a similar predicament as she was when she was young.
You are supposed to be here, and tomorrow you're gonna fake it, you're gonna make yourself powerful, and you're gonna...
But the main reason why I add Cuddy's speech to my list is because she caused me to change my actions ever since I heard her speech. One of the things that I took away from Cuddy's speech was the use of the power pose. A power pose is when you take a form that makes you seem bigger, and it actually changes your physiological state and makes you feel a little bit more confident. Some of the most popular power poses include the Wonder Woman and the Superman. Now, as a 100% bona fide nerd, I do have to tell you, do not confuse the Wonder Woman from the Superman. As you can see from this display, this is the Wonder Woman pose. The Wonder Woman pose, your legs are hip-width distance apart and you are looking straight forward while your open palms are resting on your hips. Now the Superman is slightly different. Your closed fists are on your hips, your chest is out, you are looking at about 1 o'clock, and that, my friends, is the Superman pose. So boys and girls, let's go over that again. Wonder Woman, Superman. Wonder Woman, Superman. For the love of everything that is nerd, please never confuse the two in front of me. All in all, Cuddy inspired me to make a physical change in my life, and for that reason, it goes onto my list. Number 5, I See Something by Dananjaya Hettiarachchi. Now, interestingly enough, this is my absolute favorite Toastmaster speech, although it is not the most influential Toastmaster speech that I've ever heard. Just because something is your favorite doesn't necessarily mean that it has influenced you the most. In his speech, Dananjaya talks about how he was troubled throughout his life and how other people helped him find his way, find his path, and help him become the person that he is today. All the while, he did it while using a humorous tagline throughout his entire speech that has been quoted by Toastmasters even until this day.
I see something in you, but I don't know what it is.
Now, the reasons why I like this speech are manyfold. Number 1 is that it's memorable. You don't quote a speech years after it was given if it was not memorable. Number 2, it was relatable and simple. It was just a story about a guy who was trying to find his path and people who helped him along the way. There's nothing to confuse about that. There are no gimmicks that were necessary. It was just a straightforward story, and it was told genuinely from the heart. It was after hearing Dananjaya's speech in 2014 that caused me to change my own approach to public speaking, and I started to explore more personal stories and relatable content. Number 3, I felt a personal connection to the speaker himself. For instance, Dananjaya is a person of color. I'm a person of color, I think. Yeah. Dananjaya is bald. I'm bald. Dananjaya radiates charisma and coolness. I know about those words. We're basically twins. All in all, Dananjaya caused me to change my approach to public speaking, and I guess you can say that I saw something in him. No pun intended. Number 4, 2004's Democratic National Convention keynote address given by Barack Obama. Now, unfortunately, this speech does not have a name, and trust me, I have checked multiple times, but it does not change the fact that this was one of the most inspirational speeches that I have ever heard. Now, full disclosure, I did not actually hear this speech until 2008 when Barack Obama was on the campaign trail. But when I did hear it, I was absolutely amazed. In his speech, Barack Obama talked about how he grew up in America as a multi-race child and struggled with his identity.
Tonight is a particular honor for me because, let's face it, my presence on this stage is pretty unlikely.
Now, throughout the speech, he was obligated to sprinkle in some political jabs at George W. Bush at the time, as well as give some plugs for John Kerry, who was running for president at the time. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. But aside from the political nonsense, Barack Obama's story and his speech just resonated with me because I felt that there were a lot of parallels in his story with my own story. Like Barack Obama, I didn't have a father in my life consistently. And my mother was a person who always struggled to make a good living for herself and her children. And while I didn't struggle with my identity like Barack Obama did, I did have moments where I felt unconfident as to who I wanted to be. But in addition to being inspired personally by his words and his message, I also know that there were so many people who were also inspired, and these people were given hope, and that hope led to him becoming the president 4 years later.
There is not a liberal America and a conservative America. There is the United States of America. There is not a black America and a white America and Latino America and Asian America. There's the United States of America.
All in all, a story that connected with me personally, inspired me personally, and inspired millions around the world. That is why it is number 4 on my list. Number 3, The Power of Introverts by Susan Cain.
All the times that I got the message that somehow my quiet and introverted style of being was not necessarily the right way to go, and that I should be trying to pass as more of an extrovert.
This is another extremely popular TED Talk in which Susan Cain talks about growing up as an introvert and how introverts can thrive even in an extroverted world. Now, the speech itself was solid, but the reason why it's so high on my list is because it caused me to take an action that completely changed my perspective forever when it comes to introverts and extroverts. After hearing Susan Cain's speech, I ended up buying her book, Quiet. In that book, I learned what an introvert truly was and what it wasn't. I learned that introverts are people who just lose energy when they have high amounts of social interaction, whereas an extrovert gains a lot of energy from that same social interaction. That book revealed to me that I'm not weird because I don't want to be around people all of the time, and that it's okay for me to go into a quiet place to regain my energy. This was in stark contrast to what I had been told a lot of times in my life, that I needed to have more friends, that I needed to be more outgoing, that I needed to speak up more. It truly was a life-changing perspective for me. In addition, reading that book caused me to make another action, to write a speech that would later take me to the 2016 World Championship of Public Speaking, which now leads me to number 2, the 57-word title speech given by yours truly in the 2016 World Championship of Public Speaking.
Be honest. You enjoyed that, didn't you?
Now, I know there are people out there saying, Aaron, you're cheating. You can't choose your own speech. And to that, I say one thing to you. Psh! The reason why I have this on my list is because if there was any speech that literally changed my life forever, it would be that speech from 2016. That was the speech that helped me win second place in the World Championship of Public Speaking. It's also the reason why so many people around the world know who I am. It essentially put me on the international map, and it helped jumpstart my career as a professional speaker. But there is another reason that isn't directly tied to my personal benefit. About 6 months after I gave that speech in the World Championship of Public Speaking, there was a young man who reached out to me. He was about 19 years old, and he always struggled with being shy and quiet. He told me that there were some struggles that he was dealing with in his life, and that my speech inspired him to make a change. And his email really touched me because he wasn't asking me for anything. He wasn't reaching out to me for free coaching or a free speech review. He wasn't trying to sell me anything. He just reached out to me because he genuinely wanted to say thank you. It was in that moment where I changed my mindset around my own public speaking. I went from being a speaker who could give a good speech to being a speaker who could actually impact somebody's life.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that it's okay to be a quiet person, to be soft-spoken, to not say that much. Because when it comes to being remembered, I've learned, and you've proven, just because you say more doesn't mean people will remember what you say.
Finally, the number 1 most influential speech that I ever heard, Fortune Cookie, given by Kwong Yue Yang, the 2011 second place winner in the World Championship of Public Speaking.
My mama always said, Life is like a box of fortune cookies. You never know what you're gonna get.
As I said before, when I think of an influential speech, I'm not just picking my favorites. I'm thinking of a speech that changed my mentality, it changed my perspective, or it caused me to make a decision to pursue a new goal. Listening to Kwong's speech, it helped me make one of the most important decisions that I ever made in my life. In short, Kwong's speech was about growing up as a young boy, not knowing what he wanted to do in his life, and then trying to get advice from multiple people before ultimately realizing that the answer to his problems was truly in his own hands and not in the hands of others. Listening to Kwong's speech, I thoroughly enjoyed his story. He was extremely relatable on the stage, he was extremely likable, and likability can take you very far. I also enjoyed the various ways Kwong wove in humor into his speech throughout.
We can even sell fake American goods. And we'll sell them to Americans.
But even though the storytelling was masterful and relatable, what made me choose this as my #1 most influential speech is because it was after watching Kwong speak that I decided to compete in the international speech contest. So I guess you can say that if it was not for Kwong, I would not have competed in the international speech contest, which means that I would never have won the international speech contest, which means that you probably wouldn't be watching this video right now. And I think that's actually another lesson that you can take away. Kwong may not have been the world champion of public speaking, but he was still able to inspire me to make a change in my life. I may not have been able to win the world championship in 2016, but I still impacted someone's life. A lot of times we fall into the misconception that inspiration has to come from the people that have reached the pinnacle of success or the people at the top of the mountain. But that's not true. Everyone is capable of inspiring other people. It doesn't matter if you're a millionaire or a person that barely has $100 to their name. It doesn't matter if you're a champion or if you're a person who's never won a single trophy in your life. Inspiration and inspirational speeches are everywhere, but it's up to us to seek them out and find that inspiration.